Yo, welcome to Pitch Report. I'm Mario.
And I'm Amilcar.
And today it is the week of international break. So we don't have actual club soccer news, but we're going to talk a little bit about the international break, basically. But before that, how are you doing, Amilcar? With phenomenal lighting, I might add.
I know. I got a little, what would you even call this? Like, it's not a ring light, it's a square ring light. So now I can, you can see every single one of my pores on this on this camera.
We're not on video yet. Coming very soon. But yeah, Amilcar, it looks like you are like in movies when like the police shows up and they like just light up like your whole house or whatever.
Oh man, I'm glad you know how that looks. But before we start, I actually do want to do a quick shout out to the GOAT, Alex Morgan. I was at her. She got her jersey retired yesterday, which I went to the game yesterday to get her number 13 retired. Just want to say, shout out, super cool, GOAT of women's soccer, hands down, San Diego native.
That's awesome. How was the retirement ceremony?
Oh, I thought you were gonna ask how the game was. I was like, we lost 3-0, but we're not gonna talk about that. The retirement center was super cool. I was getting the chills because they had a bunch of videos, like tribute videos that from like a bunch of people, all like MLS stars. Like honestly, there was like a part where like Joe Musgrove said something. So it was like people from all I was gonna say walks of life. That sounds intense, but all sorts of people from different sports, which was super interesting, and it kind of shows you how transcending she was, and she's not just like a soccer player. Like she was just so much more than that. And they talked a lot about like the equal pay and whatnot movement that she was a part of. So it was super cool. Like there was a ton of people there. Like yeah, got the chills. And I was lucky enough to go to her last game too for the Wave. So it was like kind of full circle. I was like, this is awesome. I bought a bunch of like their branding is like San Diego Goat, and like the IE of San Diego is 13. So like that's how they do the IE, which is super cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I'd show you my scarf, but it's a little bit further away.
Yeah, an amazing career. 2 FIFA Women's World Cup wins, an Olympic gold medal, an Olympic bronze medal, 3 CONCACAF championships, 6 Sheba Leafs Cup, UEFA Women's Champions League with Lyon. I didn't even know she played in Europe. Wow. There's a lot more. Wow, there's been a lot of things she won. Oh, there we go. Oh, that is really cool. The D and sorry, the 1 and the 3 is the I and the E. Oh, that looks sick.
Yes. So that was my little 2 cents there. Little shout out for the GOAT, the real GOAT. There's no GOAT debate here. It's not Ronaldo or Messi. It's Alex Morgan, baby.
We'll be seeing more around her in San Diego. I think she's associated to the club long term as part of the ownership group, I believe.
Yep. She's part owner now of the Wave, and I mean she's a San Diego native, so she's been here. And I think her husband also is from the area, not San Diego, but he's from like Mexicali or somewhere out there. So yeah, they're like in San Diego permanently. So really cool. Anyways, we can now move on with the show.
Yeah, very cool. Really cool news from San Diego native, and I guess we can start kind of with like just San Diego FC. We mentioned that it's international break. We had a few FC players getting called up for international break. We had Luca de la Torre for the U.S. national team. He's not a San Diego player, but Diego Luna, we've kind of just been following him on the show. For Mexico, Chucky Lozano finally made his like long-awaited return to the Mexican national team. It had been a really long time. He got called up in the last window, but he got injured, so he couldn't make it. Anders Dreyer gets to call up again. I believe he didn't play, but he was playing. He was part of the Denmark team. Then Paddy McNair, captain for Northern Ireland. Aníbal Godoy, captain for Panama, and Ani Valikari with Finland. And we also did have a few other call-ups for like the U.S. I think like under 21 or 22 team with like Pedro Soma, Luca Bombino, and David Vasquez, and Duran Ferri. But I think that's where the good news ends, at least for CONCACAF. Like, U.S. national team lost to Korea 2-0. Mexico tied 0-0 with Japan, so they still can't really seem to score goals. But I think Spain was cooking, or did you have any takeaways from at least seeing some San Diego Sea or so many San Diego Sea players in the national team, especially on an almost World Cup year?
Yeah, I think it's really awesome that so many people are getting called up. I think it's also interesting to see, and I don't know, I don't have the history in front of me, but like to see that it seems like it started with like a couple of players, and then like every time there's an international break, it seems like there's one or two more players are getting called up. And I feel like part of it's probably because obviously they're playing very well and like doing well with SDFC, but I think also part of it's just because San Diego FC is doing so well, they're more in the limelight or more more people are watching them. So I think that's why a lot of people are getting called up. But super exciting stuff. I know Luca Bambino. He's been playing so well the last couple of matches that I've been watching. And then Chucky Lozano, I think for you, it's probably a big one. Full circle. Everyone thought he was going to come back the last international break, but like you said, he got injured. So yeah, it'll be fun to watch a lot of SDFC players, and hopefully they can do some recruiting.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, the MLS is like a top 10 league. I believe they ranked ninth, and yeah, to be basically leading all of MLS, we're just 1 point behind Philadelphia. It makes sense that that the success of the team right now is getting like notice. People are really watching it, like even in Europe. Like Anders Dreyer had not really gotten any call-ups. I think he had two in the past, and it shows like the season that he's had. He's a potential MVP candidate. It's like really cool that he's getting like that attention from his national team. Same goes for Luca de la Torre. Like I know that the U.S. isn't having like its best moment right now internationally for football, but still the fact that he's getting the call up, I think it does show like how well the team's been playing, and he's been part of that success. And same for Edwin Lozano. He's gotten like a second look. The commentators, I did catch part of the Mexico-Japan game, and the commentators just sounded happy to have him back. He had a few moments where he like almost like had a good play, just couldn't fully get a shot off. But like I think he still got something there. I really hope he can stay in that shape, because I think it'll one be good for him, and two for San Diego FC if he's really trying to be in good form for a World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be exciting to see. I think he's like the big name. Honestly, I kind of equate it to, we're not going to talk about baseball this time, but to football with like Aaron Rodgers. It's like such a big name, but then he's like, oh, he's kind of washed, and then now he's with the Steelers and he's like playing so well. So it's like it's the big name that actually still has a little bit left. And that's what I feel like even Lozano is. And I think it's because he was so young when he got his call ups and when he just like kind of made a name for himself, because I know he wasn't the first person to play in Europe, but he was one of like the bigger names from this last like pool of Mexican players, national players that kind of made the big wave to play in Europe. So I think a lot of people have known his name for so long, and now kind of seeing it come full circle, and now he's a star with San Diego FC, and hopefully, and for your sake, I would say can play really well this year, and complement all the young players, because I think something I've seen with Mexico, which I haven't seen in a long time, is like super young players that are really really good. And now it's almost like that wave again. It's like how are they going to develop? Are they going to stay in Mexican leagues? Are they going to go to Europe? Like, what's the best method? And I guess like what are like your quick 2 cents on that? Like, what do you think is the best method of like development for like the young kids, like the 16-year-old, the 17-year-old, 18-year-olds?
Oh, there's a lot of things to that question, but I one big thing is just giving them a chance to play. We've talked about in the past how the Mexican league doesn't really prioritize the development of like homegrown Mexican players, because you can get a lot of players from South America that are significantly cheaper to play. So I think that's like one of the main things. But there is going to be a lot of things. This actually reminds me of something new that just happened. We mentioned it in last week's episode, but that Mexico didn't have the relegation and promotion system, and they literally the day after our episode they published that they're going to reinstate it for the 2026 season.
They heard
So
us.
listeners, if you had any doubts of Pitch Report having any pull in the international soccer community, now you know. But all jokes aside, I think that's going to really like create more of an environment where they do give more opportunities to younger players. At least like some of the smaller teams will have to like maybe rely more on homegrown talent. And with part of the two new teams, or sorry, with part of the promotion system being like reinstated, they're also looking to potentially increase the league from 18 teams to 20 teams. So that would, I think, also create more opportunities for those young players. Yeah, because we really do need to develop the next generation.
So speaking of like Mexican talent, there was something that I was reading probably like last week, and it was talking about Gilberto Mora, which is like he plays for Cholos, and so he's gonna we'll see him what in a couple of weeks when SDFC plays
Yeah, the Baja
the
Cup.
Yep, exactly, the Baja Cup. So, but he's like I think 16. He was like the breakout star of the Mexican national team a couple of weeks ago. I think when they played, maybe like a month or so ago. But he's getting like interest from Real Madrid, so obviously that's why I kind of caught wind about it. And something interesting was like some of the people like agents slash owners of the Cholos were like, oh, we only want to sell him if he's going to play at Real Madrid, which is like pretty rare, right? Like they don't usually go to like the first teams. But then the coach came out and was like, no, like he definitely should not go to play for Madrid. He should go and then get loaned out like to another maybe lower team, not lower division, but first division team in Spain that will he'll get, like you said, a lot of playing time, develop, and then come back to Real Madrid. Something that like Fede Valverde did. He came from Uruguay, got loaned out for 2 years, I think, to like Celta Vigo, came back, and now he's a starter. So they were like, they had that exact same thought process the coach of Cholos did. So I think it's so funny. Like he echoed exactly what you just said.
That would be awesome too, to have like a young like player like that, like just going to Real Madrid. We haven't had that really since I think Chicharito, I want to say. So yeah,
I
it'd be
always say
nice
Hugo
to have another
Sanchez.
Mexican player. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, he was like one of a kind though. He won I forgot what the word in Spanish, but he won the Golden Boot 5 times. So yeah, Hugo Sanchez
The
was something
Pichichi.
else. But it'd be someone like yes, yes, yeah. So it'd be really cool. But talking about like young talent, I know Spain cooked in their international game. I think they won 6-0 against Turkey. Uh, Including what's his name, Lamine Yamal. He didn't score, but a few weeks ago, Hansi Flick had talked about, generally speaking, I think to the whole Barcelona team after they dropped some points, he had mentioned that ego kills potential, and this comes along where like I'm starting to see more stories of like now that Lamine Yamal's older, quote unquote, he's like 18 now or 19 now, like he's maybe starting to go out more, like be seen more with like I think just influencers or like models or people like a lot of like just a lot of company, you could say. Which reminds me a little bit of Ronaldinho, but have you heard anything else from like the Spanish press side about it?
That's so funny that you mentioned Ronaldinho because I want to say like what is it maybe 2 or 3 podcasts ago we were talking about like people that like could have been so much more, not people, but like he came up in terms of a person that like could have been just the best, like the GOAT, best of all time by far, if he would have kind of like stayed out of the partying scene. And we talked about like Giovanni Dos Santos kind of following down those footsteps and why he didn't kind of pan out to being what people thought he would be, in the world and stuff. So I guess to answer your question, then I have like a little story that I was thinking about right now. Is I think that people are getting a little bit like you're starting to see a lot more of that, a lot more of like the ego coming out, but I think it's framed differently depending on your success on the field. Because like for Ronaldinho, people talked about it, but they didn't really care. Like he was still balling out. But for Giovanni Dos Santos, for example, people are like, "Oh, that's where we gotta blame
Yeah,
this because he wasn't playing well on the field." So I think the second, if hopefully never, but if his talent ever drops, that's gonna be the first thing they're gonna point to. They're gonna say, "Oh, well, it's because he's not work ethic. He's always going out. He's always like social media influencer, all that stuff." So I think all to say, I think it's fine as long as he keeps performing. But if there's ever a drop in form, that's gonna be the first thing they're gonna point to, and that'll be, I think, the pivotal moment on how he reacts in that situation.
yeah, and we're all human, so like if something's got to give, usually if you're like dedicating time to and energy into something else other than like the football of it all, like something's usually gonna give. He is super young too, so I would hate for him to be like washed up in like a few years. So, yeah, well, yeah, we'll see how he continues to develop. But yeah, I think as long as he keeps form, like it's usually like okay. It reminds me of like in the Last Dance with like Dennis Rodman, who like just would do whatever he wanted. Like he'd like just disappear for a few days, go to Vegas, go party. He had to get things out of his system, and then he'd show up and like was still able to win championships, like play at a really high level. He just like knew he had to do what he had to do. So it just reminded me of that.
Yeah, but the thing with that though, Mario, and I think it's like that only works if you're playing well, right? And there's going to be like no one
Yeah,
plays well.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no one plays well their whole career, right? There's going to be dips in form, and like just like happens Ronaldo, Messi, everybody, right? They're going to go for like a scoreless drought, and like I'm actually curious how it's going to affect him if he feels like, oh, everyone's putting all this pressure on him because he's going out and stuff like that, and maybe the fact that he's going out, that's just his life, and that's how he lets go of stress or whatever it may be, right? So that's what I'm more curious about. Is right now he's obviously balancing it, but the second it's not necessarily balancing the physical part of it, it's the mental part of it. Like, can he cope with people, for lack of better words, like talking shit and like the media just destroying him because he's doing all these things?
True, and I mean he's 18 too. Like everyone wants to like have a little bit of fun. Like most people aren't pro athletes, especially for one of like the best teams in the world. But so what I mean when I say like we'll see. I wonder if it'll be like a year, a few months, or just kind of get things out of his system and then realize, okay, like what do I really want? Because something, if you want to credit some like our current goats, which you could say are like Messi and Ronaldo, to their credit, like, and a lot of other really good players, they've been for the most part pretty focused, like pretty like just dedicated themselves to the game, to their body, and like keeping it at the form that they're in. And granted, most people don't play at their level late into their 30s, but it's now if you do want that or even a chance at that, you kind of have to make that decision now. But for the time being, I mean, Barcelona's not they dropped points the week before going on break, so they hopefully it's a good wake up call so that they can get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, well, one thing I was going to tell you about, which I found really funny online, that it was like, oh, Lamine Yamal has had a really rough week, and it was like Barcelona dropped points, and then I guess so he was dating Nicki Nicole, which is like not R&B, she's a singer, basically a famous singer, and so they broke up because his girlfriend left him for a Real Madrid player, which is like Franco Mastuano, which is like an Argentina player that just got bought. He's I think 18 years old as well. So, and then I think Lamine had just bought her a Ferrari or something, and then she just left him and went for the Real Madrid guy. And it was just the funniest thing. I was like, damn, he's had a rough week.
Damn. Also, I'm looking up his girlfriend. She's 25. If it's the person I'm seeing, Argentine rapper and singer. Yeah, yeah, I'm seeing. Okay, yes, 25. She's also, it says 4'9". She's pretty tiny.
Yeah, but she left him. I guess it makes sense. She went. I should say it doesn't make sense, but she went with the Argentinian player Franco Mastuano, which maybe there was some history there, but he just arrived at Real Madrid maybe a month ago. So it's kind of like the salt in the wound, On top of leaving him, it's like for a rival player.
Yeah, interesting clásico, I guess.
I know, actually though, but I feel like that the pool seems to be like people like interdate. I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot of like, oh, so and so's married to like this other player's ex-wife or ex-girlfriend, so it's like kind of a circle, I guess you could say.
Yeah, one of the really like bad ones was Mauro Icardi, who basically swooped on his fellow Argentine teammates' wife at the time, and ended up marrying her for a while, but they recently like got like divorced or something. And for a long time, they would say part of the reason he wouldn't get called up to the national team was for doing something like that. But yeah, it's just because world of soccer, man.
Wait, actually, great segue. You're saying like he didn't get called up because of something. So did you see there was an article, and I don't know how real it is. And when I say just for the audience, when I say there was an article that I read, most of the time it was like something on Instagram or something like that I saw on there. So I just used the word article, but I'm not that professional. I'm actually probably just reading something on Instagram. So take it with a grain of salt, not fact checking myself. I probably will start now that I just, made this comment. But it was saying that like I guess you know how Messi or like not Messi, Inter Miami got into it with the Seattle Sounders after like the match.
I think we briefly lost the milk carb. I think that AT&T Tower is acting up again, but I think he was referencing where Inter Miami after I think it was the League Cup final, lost 3-0, and in the course of or after the game, there was some fights where Suarez was spitting, and then I think we're rejoined by Amilcar.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, I was just recapping I think you had alluded to the League's Cup final where Suarez was spitting, and then I'm blanking. I think Sergio Busquets was maybe throwing some punches.
Yeah, I think it was Sergio Busquets threw two punches, and then Messi. I don't think he actually fought anybody, but I think Jordi Alba also got into it, and so it was all of them, right? They were all kind of, and that like they got suspended for I don't know how many matches. So that was crazy. But the point that I was going to make about that whole thing was I think there's an Argentinian player on Seattle, and I don't know his name, but there was apparently when he had gotten into it with Messi or something like that, and he was like, "Oh, you'll never be part of Argentina as long as I'm around." Was like something that quote unquote he was said. You can fact check me. Who knows? But I'm like, if you say something like that, that's so crazy. Like to be like, "Oh, you're never gonna get called up because that's like I run the Argentina team." So you can fact check me, but heard it on Instagram.
I mean, you heard on Instagram, and who knows about this case, but that's very common where you have like a superstar player that basically decides what flies, what does not fly in many cases. Even even with the coaches, I'm thinking like for a long time, like LeBron James, like he was basically just would get whatever he wanted and he would decide what they're doing. Like, all right, coach, here's the game plan for today kind of situation. So I'm
Yeah.
sure like it's very likely that's true.
No, it's crazy. But if that's the case, that was kind of like the thing about Icardi never getting called up. So it's like something like that. And it's similar, honestly. The same thing happened to Benzema. He didn't get called up for France because he like had snitched, I think, on someone and their girlfriend or wife or something like that. But that's another one. So
Yeah. If you were always one of those kids that was like, oh, coach didn't play me because he didn't like me, I guess what we're trying to say is you might have been right.
hate to see it, but yes, you're probably right. But I
Yeah.
mean, on the Messi topic though, like he played his final match in Argentina, potentially like ever, right? Because if he plays the World Cup, they're not going to play in Argentina anymore. So how do you feel, man? End of the legacy forever, you know?
Do you know if there was like a ceremony before? Because I could see like a ceremony like after like Suarez had one. Like, I think it was like a friendly where they gave him like they did like all the rituals of like a goodbye to a player.
I don't know if they did
I
anything,
feel
to
like
be
maybe
honest.
we probably are near the end of an era. I even thought last World Cup it could have been like the end of it in that regard, but this is probably the last one. Uh, but staying on the Messi topic and back to the Leagues Cup, the ban that the players received is only for Leagues Cup matches, so it's not for any other like regular season matches. It I think it kind of goes to show how badly MLS wants Miami to make the playoffs and how much they can't afford to not have Miami make the playoffs, or at least what they feel like in terms of like viewership that would bring to have Miami one make it and two hopefully for their sake have a deep run.
Yeah, so actually, Mario, just not to be a corrector or anything, but they just announced today that the MLS is actually expanding it to also ban him from the next three MLS games. So he will now miss basically the rest of the season.
Okay, got it. Again, we proved that pitch reports got more pull than than we thought.
Quickly, like even without you even saying anything, it already knew. All right, we got to do something
Yeah.
more. I'm sure they knew the blowback was just going to be crazy if they didn't do anything.
Okay, that makes sense. It makes me feel a little bit like I can trust MLS a little bit more.
Yeah, but I mean, I hate to go back to the whole Messi and the GOAT debate, but it's crazy. So Messi in his last match scored 2 goals, which was crazy, and then also Ronaldo also in his World Cup match scored another 2 goals. So it's just like going back to that. Like not only is like potentially the end of an era, but like you said, we thought it was the end of an era 5 years ago, 7 years ago, like 2 years ago, and then just like they keep scoring goals, they keep doing more. It like, reminds me of this video that I watched, and it was one of the guys from like ESPN FC, and they were like, "Oh, do you think like Ronaldo scored? Do you think he'll score 800 goals? Like get to 800?" And they're like, "No, that's crazy. There's absolutely no way. Blah blah. Like it's insane. This and that." And now he has like 940. And so he's like about to break 1,000, and they were saying like, "There's no way he's even gonna get to 800." And like it just goes to show like the longevity, and these guys are just like so good.
That is insane. Just a random question, Amilcar. I'm gonna put you on the spot, but out of the 940 goals, do you know how many he scored at Real Madrid? Roughly, if you can
Um,
get in the ballpark.
I'm gonna go. He has 900. I'm gonna go 487.
He has 940.
900. Oh, 940 total. Yeah, yeah. But I'm gonna go 487.
You're actually not far off. He's got 450 with Real Madrid.
Oh, okay. Which is nuts because he was on the team for like 10 years, maybe. No, not even probably 10 years.
Maybe like a good 8.
I know it's funny because they do the comparison with Erling Haaland a lot, and there was something that I read that was like, oh, if Erling Haaland wants to get to the same amount of goals that Ronaldo scored, he has to score 40 goals for the next like 14 seasons or 15 seasons, which is like
14 seasons.
yeah, and he's like a goal scoring machine.
Career. Yeah, that's like a mark that no one might ever like surpass.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because like they played at the same time too.
Yeah, we've just been so truly like fortunate to grow up in a period where we see these players and they do it for so long. But I was gonna say we need to do an episode where we just like talk about like records that we think people will never break. We could even make it a crossover, bring in like other sports.
Okay, yes, I actually like that. And there was another one that I saw like on Instagram, which was like what records, but it wasn't in terms of like player records. It was in terms of like team records, like that will probably never be broken, and which one's like harder versus easier. So look at that, we're thinking on the spot while we're live. Yeah, so it's we're all good for today, Mario. Nothing else randomly coming to your head, chat about.
No, it's one of the few times where like I think we've covered it. We're gonna keep it nice and short for you all. We'll have San Diego FC next week playing Minnesota. Hopefully we can gain some points on Philadelphia. And just one of the positive things of this week was that Manchester United did not lose. So hopefully they can keep it going next week.
Wait, okay, before we leave, actually, I'm curious. Have you seen there's a video on, or a guy on Instagram that's like, oh, I'm not going to cut my hair until Manchester United wins 5 matches in a row. Have you seen that guy?
Yeah. Yeah. That guy is like very patient. If one right now he looks, I don't know if you ever saw Dragon Ball Z, but he looks like the characters when they go like Super Saiyan. Like his hair is like growing up. He kind of looks like sort of like Marge Simpson. Uh, he's got 4 more games. They won their most recent game. But yeah, he's very patient because once I get to like maybe if I'm pushing like over a month and a half, near 2 months without getting a haircut, I feel like I'm going crazy.
Well, that was a good ending for it. I like it. I like ending on that. Maybe we'll start tracking how how many games in a row Manchester United can win.
For the sake of this guy, I'm trying to find what his handle is. Let's see, Manchester United hair guy. It is worth checking out. Okay, so it's his name is Frank Lett, and it's at the United Strand, and it looks like he's at day 332. Actually, no, 338. But yeah, that about does it for today's episode. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate being part of your day, talking soccer, hanging out. Remember, you can find us on Instagram and X at _pitch report. I'm Mario.
And I'm Amilcar. Bye.